For today's video, I'm going to discuss morphology in linguistics. Morphology is the study of words. A word is the smallest independent units of a language. A word is considered independent units of language in a sense that, first, it does not depend on other words. Second, it can be separated from other units. And third, it can change its position. Words have internal structure built of smaller pieces. Words are categorized according to its structure. First, we have the simple words, and the second one is the complex words. Examples under simple words include the words book, chair, and work. As you notice, these words don't have internal structure in a sense that it consists of only one morpheme. Book cannot be split into smaller units of a language because it can already create its own meaning. It can work independently on its own. The same reasons can be applied to the words chair and work. Then we have the complex words. Complex words have internal structure of words. Let's have these examples: books, chairs, and worker. If we try to split these words into morphemes, we may have book as one morpheme and another morpheme in the S form. Then we have chairs. Chairs has two morphemes. The first morpheme is the chair, and the second morpheme is the S form. Then we have the word worker. Worker has two morphemes. The first one is the work, and the second morpheme is the ER form. Morpheme is the smallest meaningful unit in the grammar of a language. It has two types. First, the free morpheme, and the other one is the bound morpheme. The free morpheme can stand alone as words by themselves. We have examples as friend, boy, tree, and house. Again, these words cannot be split into different units of language because these words can stand alone as themselves. They can stand independently. They can create its own meaning without adding any more morphemes. There are two categories of free morphemes. First, we have the lexical morpheme, and the other one is the functional morpheme. Lexical morpheme are known as open class words because we can attach morphemes into these words. These take the forms of nouns, verbs, adverbs, and adjectives. On the other hand, we have functional morphemes, known as closed class words, because there is no morpheme that can be added into these words. We have examples as conjunctions, prepositions, articles, auxiliaries, and pronouns. Let's have examples for these two morphemes. Under the lexical morpheme, we have the word girl, which functions as a noun. Now, if we try to add another morpheme in this word, the girl becomes girls. For the word jump, if we try to add another morpheme in this word, it may be jumps, jumped, or even jumping. For the word red, which functions as an adjective, if we add another morpheme in the ish form, it can become reddish, which also functions as an adjective. Now let's have the word boy. If we try to add another morpheme in this word, it becomes boys, which functions also as a noun. Then we have the verb look. If we try to add morphemes in this word, it can become looks, looked, or looking. Now let's have the word pink. If we try to add another morpheme in the word pink, it becomes pinkish, which functions also as an adjective. So these are the examples of the lexical morphemes. Again, we can add morphemes into these words. Next, we have the functional morphemes. First, we have the pronouns he, she, it. Then we also have the fanboys. Fanboys are included in the conjunctions. Remember that conjunctions are of three types. First, we have the coordinating, followed by the subordinating, and the third one is the correlative conjunction. Fanboys are included under the coordinating conjunction. F stands for, A stands for and, N stands for nor, B stands for but, O stands for or, Y stands for yet, and S stands for so. Then we also have the articles a and the. We also have prepositions in the form of in, on, at. And we have auxiliary verbs or helping verbs in the form of shall, may, will. Remember that words in this functional morpheme don't have clear meaning, but they do have its grammatical function. These functional morphemes are needed to establish relationship to the lexical morphemes because the composition or construction of a well-written sentence won't be possible without the help of these functional morphemes. After the free morpheme, we now have the bound morphemes. Bound morphemes never exist as words themselves, but they are always attached to some other morphemes. Examples are affixes. The types of affixes include the prefix, the infix, the suffix, and the circumfix. For the prefix, these are the morphemes added before the base word. For the infix, these are the morphemes added in between two other morphemes. For the suffix, these are the morphemes added at the ending part of the base word. Then we have the circumfix. These are the morphemes added at the beginning and ending part of the base word. Bound morphemes have two categories. First is the inflectional morpheme, and the other one is the derivational morpheme. Inflectional morphemes are used to indicate aspects of the grammatical function of a word. There are 8 inflectional morphemes. The first inflectional morpheme is in the form of possessive noun with the form of apostrophe s. In the words, girl's handkerchief. Well, this means an ownership. The handkerchief is being owned by the girl. Then we have school's logo. The logo is owned by the school. Then we also have students' achievement, the achievement of the student. Then we also have, under the category of a noun, in the plural form, the S form, as in the examples girls, paintings, and fruits. These are also called inflectional morphemes. Then for the verb, we have the third person singular with the S form. He, and it are considered pronouns in the third person singular. This means for us to have a singular verb, this verb should be added by the S form because it is stated that singular subject takes singular verb. Then we also have the progressive verb in the ing form, in the verbs going, painting. Another inflectional morpheme takes the form of the past tense with the D and ED form. Say for example, we have assisted, followed, and conducted. Remember that past tense of the verb are considered as either regular verbs, which are only added with the D or ED form, and the irregular verbs which change its spelling, as in the words teach, taught, think, thought, bring, brought. Then we also have past participle with the en form. This past participle forms of the verb always comes after the auxiliary verbs has, have, or had. Then we have the inflectional morpheme in the form of adjective. Remember that there are 3 degrees of comparison. First is the positive degree, which requires no comparison of person, thing, event, and place. On the other hand, the comparative degree compares 2 persons, 2 places, 2 things, and 2 events. Say for example, we have the word funnier. Mike is funnier than Isaac. We are comparing 2 persons in this sentence. Then we also have the word simpler. This quiz is simpler than the last one. We are comparing 2 quizzes. Then we have the superlative degree of comparison, which requires comparing 3 or more persons, places, things, and events. It takes the form of the est, as in the word funniest. Mike is the funniest among my classmates. We also use the word simplest, as in the sentence, this quiz is the simplest among all. Now let's have derivational morpheme. This can change the grammatical category of a word. We also have list of derivational morphemes in the form of prefixes, as in re, pre, on, ex, mis, and co. Remember that each of these prefixes has its own proper usage. Then we also have suffixes, as in the form of ish. We also have the less suffix and the ly suffix. Now let's have example of class changing under derivational morphemes. We have the verb here, pay. But if we add a suffix in the form of meant, it becomes now a noun. Then we also have a verb, pay. If we add a suffix er, it becomes now payer, and functions as a noun already. Again, these are examples of class-changing derivational morphemes. The adding of a suffix leads to the change in its grammatical function or part of the speech. Then we also have example of class maintaining. Say for example, we have the word pink. Pink functions as adjective. Now, if we add ish suffix, it becomes pinkish. Now, as you notice, it also functions as adjective. Then, we also have the verb do. If we add a prefix on, it becomes now undo. It still functions as a verb. Meaning to say, the adding of either a prefix or a suffix does not change its grammatical function or its part of a speech. Then we also have contractible morphemes. These are auxiliary modals such as will, shall, have, had, would. Again, auxiliary modals are also called helping verbs. This can be contracted in informal style of language. Say, for example, instead of saying I will, just say I'll. Instead of saying they had, just say they'd. You should not, you shouldn't. These are examples of contractible morphemes. Then we also have the root and stem. The root words are the basic parts of a word that carries meaning, while stem is when a root morpheme is combined with affix morpheme. Say for example, we have here the root word teach. Now, if we add an affix in the form of suffix, the er form, it now becomes teacher. It forms another word and it changes its grammatical function. It's part of speech. From verb, teach, it becomes now a noun. Next, we have the bound root. Bound root are root morphemes which cannot appear on its own. Let's have these examples. Re in the word receive, or even perceive, deceive, conceive. This in the word dissuade. Per in the word permit. We also have submit. We also have this word remit. These root morphemes are not considered a prefix because remember, a prefix is added to a base word or the root word. This base word is an independent word. They have its own meaning. They can work independently on its own. If we try to remove re, we only have this word sieve. And the word sieve doesn't contain any meaning. The same thing happens to dissuade. If we try to split this and remain the word swayed, there is no meaning at all. This also happens when we remove this root morpheme per in the word permit. There is no meaning of the word meet. This means that root morphemes are those that are already included in that word and which cannot be split into smaller units of a language. Now let's try segmenting words into its constituent morphemes. We have the word repayment. Re functions as prefix. Pay is the root word. It has meanings of its own. It can work independently on its own. Pay functions as a verb. Then we also have ment, which functions as suffix. If we add re and ment, we now have this word repayment. It functions now as a noun. These are examples of segmenting words into its constituent morphemes. This is all about morphology and its types. Thank you for watching.